What's going on? I wanted to come back with another episode here of True Capacity Talks. I want to dive into something. So a question I get all the time is like, yo, what should I do for a personalized fitness routine? What should I do for a fitness program? What should I do to build my exercises, to build my protocols? What should I do? Well, I want to do a little thought experiment, and let's dive into a specific demographic, and that would be our ambitious business professionals that are ages like 26 to 45. Okay, so let's look at this target demographic intentionally, because there's going to be a little bit of nuance here from group to group, from person to person, from goal to goal. And I want to make sure that you have an accurate representation, and then you can apply to your situation. So first and foremost, there's three things that we're going to look at. So it's going to be time management, it's going to be goal setting, right? And it's going to be also personalization. Okay. And you're like, okay, well, all of these things are the factors that I need to keep in mind when trying to personalize. Yes. And we'll go into each of them as to why in just a second. But on the time management side, right, especially for this demographic that's extremely busy and wants to make sure that they can get maximum output by minimal input, right? Ain't nobody trying to live in the gym, not trying to be in a position where you've got to do 2 hours of bodybuilding prep, right, in the gym to be rocking and rolling. Definitely don't want to do that. So what we're going to want to do is find a way to prioritize the fitness day to day around the things that we're not going to give up. Like, for example, most people in this demographic are not going to give up drinking on the weekends. Most people in this demographic are not going to give up social events. They're not going to give up other things that are going on. So we need to make sure that we can get optimal volume for our goals there with the fitness, but also want to make sure that the timing is not too aggressive. So an easy way for this to happen for anyone that's in this demographic would be to look at doing more compound movements, doing more supersets, right? Doing more time restricted lifting. Okay, we're going to get more bang for your buck. Doesn't mean you're going to get the best hypertrophy in the world, but you will be able to hit a couple different areas that we need to hit in a single session, where as somebody that has more time, that's willing to allocate more time in the gym, might approach this a little bit differently. So, for me, I think that if someone was in this demographic and was like, yo, James, I want to be snatched, but I'm only willing to work out 2 to 3 times a week, that's sweet. Okay, we can definitely do that. We can blast you for 30 minutes for sure, and you don't have to be a cardio bunny, right? But what's extremely important is that we just decrease the resistance, because a lot of times what happens is we get into these spots where we're like, yo, I got this goal and it's super important to me, but I don't have all the time in the world. I don't have the same time that Arnold does, or the same time that Jeffy B has, or the same time that Hormozy has, or I don't have TRT, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. Like, look, at some point, you're going to have to admit that we're just going to have to do X amount of work to get anywhere at all. And if you're willing to do X amount of work to get yourself in the door, cool, we can play ball. If you're not willing to do that, there's very little that anyone can help you do there. But the biggest thing with the time management that this is going to come down to is really the consistency, right? You're going to have the consistency and being accountable to actually showing up. Now, it doesn't mean that you're there for 2 hours, again, because we are trying to be in a position where we have less time, higher intensity, heavier load. Now, you got to do this safely, and there's a lot of caveats here. But when you think about this, I think that a great way to go potentially for somebody would be interval weight training. Okay, so what that is basically couplets. So it's exercise 1 immediately into exercise 2, followed by 90 seconds to 2 minutes rest. And usually the first exercise in that couplet is going to be something like some sort of strength training, and then the second is going to be more conditioning, and then you have 2 minutes off, and you repeat that maybe 5 times. Like, you can have a 10-minute workout, a 15 or 20-minute workout, and be the same intensity that someone can get out of 2 hours. Now, again, at some point you're going to have more volume, but for now and to start, when you're thinking about how can you combine stuff, you could look at that way, like just methodology wise. You could also look at making sure that you're planning exercises appropriately, where exercise 1 and 2 are side by side to each other. Now, that doesn't mean like it's push pull, but it does mean that, like, maybe using the dumbbells for 5 of the exercises, maybe you do those first, or you do those all in a row, so that you're not in a place where you're jumping all over the place. because time is extremely important here, especially if you're super busy, working white collar, trying to climb up the ladder, and that's what you want to do, right? We're looking here for some actionable steps that you can take. So that's with time management. And then also get the hell off your phone. Being on your phone in the gym is not going to help you at all. End of story, period. Don't want to hear about it. You're not going to be in a solid spot on your phone in the gym. So find yourself a little notebook, write down your workouts ahead of time, and rock that direction. The second thing here is going to be goal setting, okay? Especially people that are in a position where they're more higher performing, they're trying to move up in the corporate ladder, they are ambitious in many different directions. What I find is very often the case with clients that I've coached that are like this is like they're usually all or nothing. It's usually like, hey, I'm going to do everything. Hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to get on, the hormone protocol. I'm going to get semaglutide. I'm also going to get a new Apple Watch. I'm also going to get remote coaching and in-person coaching and all the supplements and yada, yada. Like, chill out, right? Chill out and move back to just getting yourself to a place where you can do, 1 to 2 to 3 of those things intentionally before you start to bounce into a ton of other things. Because at the end of the day, the last thing that you want to do is go too hot, too heavy, too fast, and then you burn right out. So on that, we want to make sure that, our goal here is something that we can actually roadmap to. So what might this look like? Well, for, a goal here and being intentional about goal setting, my recommendation would be just to focus on the process goals. And that would be my recommendation for habit change in the long run regardless. I also think it makes it a little bit easier to emotionally detach from the short run outcomes. And it makes it easier to keep going because you're not then saying, hey, I'm only successful if I hit this amount of pounds. I'm only successful if I hit this amount of fat. I'm only successful if I hit this amount of days. Like I would come down to step goal, looking at protein goal, looking at exercise consistency, looking at sleep hours. Like those are things that are with pre-planning to the majority of your capability. They're within your control. So goal setting down to the process goal, having an outcome, having a why, having a reason, either away from pain or toward pleasure that you actually want to do this, because there's nothing worse than just like, oh, I'm just going to figure it out. And that's silly, right? No, you're not. You're not, because if you were, you would have already. Doesn't mean that there's not, obvious exceptions here, but it makes way more sense to have a SMART goal, really. Lay out a SMART goal and make sure that you're intentional about the time management. And then really the last thing there is just when it comes down to the personalization, right? Tailoring to what you're trying to do. If you're like, hey, fat loss is really important to me, guess what? Overall movement, right? I would really go calories in, calories out to start and get more movement, eat less food, strength train, right? So you halfway enjoy your life while you're doing that and see what happens, right? If you're like, hey, I really want bigger biceps, boom, that's a volume game. That's a volume game and staying healthy game over time, okay? Same with like any kind of big body recomposition. I mean, if you're looking for hypertrophy, right? Growth, size, not strength, size, you got to be in a position where you're doing ample volume, right? And everyone disagrees on what ample volume is for everyone, but on a newbie side, like, 15 sets per muscle group per week or per 5 days, 5 to 7 days, 15 sets every 5 to 7 days is going to be kind of the best way to go there. It's pretty much, it's very easy to keep it simple. If you got 3 days, you got 5 sets of each. If you got 5 days, you got 3 sets of each on every single day if you want to run full body, or you can just absolutely destroy yourself in the gym twice a week and do upper one and lower the other, and you won't walk for a few days. But I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend smaller, more consistent, more frequent instances of doing fitness. I think that that's a better way to go in my own experience and with clients. But hey, go off and do what you want to do. And then just making sure that you pick the right modalities, right? And making sure that you pick the right exercises. And I'll tell you that 1 is always greater than 0. So doing some is better than none, always, period, end of story. But making sure that you're in a position where, if you want bigger hamstrings, right? You want bigger hamstrings. You're probably not going to want to be doing a silly amount of front squats. Probably. That's probably not the most effective way to get there. I mean, can you get bigger legs? You bet your ass, right? Probably not the most efficient way that you could get there, especially if time is important to you. So being intentional about kind of what you're doing here, not only on the time, but also on the goals, but also on the exercise selection. And if you need some help, reach out to somebody, look through some forums, look up who Charles Poliquin is, look up who, actually there's a lot of names that I won't name drop, but there's tons of people that you can look out there. Peruse through some YouTube channels. Marcus Philly is a good person to look at. Ryan from Chalk Performance, Ryan Fisher is a great person to look at. Our very own Andy, Dr. Andy Moldermans over at Movement Chiropractic in Peachtree City, solid guy to have a conversation about specific exercise selection. Super solid guy. I would look at that, and then outside of the exercise side, on the personalization, nutrition is kind of one of the most important things here. Like, if you're in a spot where you have an aesthetic change, or you have a body recomposition change that you want, or you have a fat loss goal, nutrition is going to be extremely important. You can't out-train a bad diet forever, okay? You might be able to stay ahead of it for a bit. You're not going to be able to stay ahead of it forever. And so you really want to make sure that you get that dialed in, right? And then on top of that, like, you can use step counters, you can use fitness gadgets, you can use things to your benefit. All I would say there is that you just be intentional about your usage of tech. And I would not recommend that you use MyFitnessPal or something like that to count the amount of calories burned. I would only use it to track the food input, not output of energy, because they're just wildly inaccurate. There's way too many instances where they've been inaccurately used, and many people before they become a client with us have used them to track their output of like the caloric expenditure in workouts and walking and running, etc. And it's just massively off. And so it gives you a false sense of security and a false sense of hope that you have X amount of calories left in the day if you're tracking them. Or you have, oh man, I did really, holy goodness. I did really well. And, I rocked 1,500 calories in my Orange Theory class. Like, I hate to say it, but you didn't. Unfortunately, you did not burn 1,500 calories in your Orange Theory class. That is not the case. But yeah, to wrap this up, really, we're looking at time, we're looking at goal setting, and then we're looking at personalization. And then really, you're just keeping it simple, stupid, right? KISSING. It's really just KISS, but keep it simply stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it stupid, simple. However you want to break that down. Regardless, I mean, really, you just need to be in a position where 1 is always greater than 0. A little bit of a deposit into the bank is always better than waiting until you can get it all right. Okay, so when you are building out a personalized fitness routine for yourself, or fitness coaching routine, or fitness or just health routine in general, you just want to make sure that it fits within the time constraints that you can allot, that you're willing to give to it. You have a goal that's a SMART goal. It's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, it's timely. So you have a time that you're trying to get there. You have a deeper why, right? Away from pain or towards pleasure. And then you have personalization around the exercise selection, the nutrition, the gadgets you're going to use, the way that you're going to set this up, and how you're going to track progress. And then you should be good to go, right? If you need some more help from anyone on our team, or want to reach out with a question, my DMs are always open. YouTube comments, Facebook group. Facebook group is probably the easiest place to ask anything. We have about 800 people over there. Definitely a solid time. Outside of that, yeah. If there's anything that y'all want to hear, let me know. I'm putting these out Monday through Friday every single week without fail on True Capacity Talks. They're also on YouTube. So if there's anything you want to see, please don't hesitate to let me know. And I hope everyone has a great evening. Peace.